Email address is roy@roygreenshow.com, and my blog is roygreenshow.com. You'll find something that deals with the healthcare discussion that we had yesterday with the president of the Canadian Medical Association on the blog, so have a look if you would and post some comments, because I think we're going to do a follow-up before the end of the week. Now, this story. Canada's chiefs of police yesterday afternoon announced their support for the National Firearms Registry as the issue makes its way to a parliamentary vote on the long gun registry in the next few weeks. The chiefs of police argue the registry is an invaluable tool for police in fighting crime. The Conservatives are pressing for the elimination of the registry, arguing it is punitive only to hunters and law-abiding gun owners and has been a billion-dollar waste. The Liberals, some of whom voted for the abolishment of the registry in an earlier reading of the legislation, are now being ordered by Michael Ignatieff to fall in line and support the registry. NDP members are so far going to have the freedom to vote as they believe their constituents wish them to vote so far. Edmonton Police Constable Randy Kuntz has made public a survey of Canadian police officers. Constable Kuntz is a 22-year veteran with the Edmonton Police, and he placed onto an online forum in Blue Line magazine, a police publication, a question about whether or not Canada's police officers support the registry. Well, Constable Kuntz joins us, as does criminologist John Martin, from the University of the Fraser Valley. He's also a columnist for the Abbotsford Times. Constable Kuntz, good to talk to you.
Thank you very much for having me, Roy.
And John, it's good to have you back on the show.
Good to be back, Roy. Thank you.
So most fundamentally, Randy, let me speak to you as a police officer, 22-year veteran. What is it about the long gun registry that you most object to?
Just the basic fact that it does nothing for the public safety, it does nothing for officer safety, and like I said, all it does is keep track of licensed firearms owners and their legally registered firearms.
So what do you make of the chiefs of police making their position so public yesterday? I mean, we knew that the majority of chiefs of police in this country were going to be taking this position, but they've done it very publicly just before the issue heads back to Parliament.
Yeah, I find that quite interesting. I noticed a lot of their examples that they used, Chief Blair, for specifically, of course, he's a spokesman, he's the president. He made lots of examples that he gave as far as out of 14 out of the 16 police homicides that occurred were done with long guns, and he's exactly proving my point, because we still have 14 dead policemen among the countless others that have been killed with firearms in this country. So as far as the safety issue, it's a moot point. It's not a safety issue, obviously.
Tell us about the question that you asked on your online poll and the response that you received. A lot of people have heard that it was 92% in favor of abolishing the long gun registry. What some may not have heard is the level of participation that you encountered.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. I actually pulled a copy of exactly what I had said on there, and when I asked the policeman, I told them that they could email me and gave my address, and I said, please give me your opinion. If you wish to give your email address to another sworn member who is not on Blue Line, please do so. And there's nobody else involved. Nobody's put me up to this. This is all at my own expense, which totals about $60 plus my cell phone bills from Friday on. But in another vein, I noticed that Chief Blair had mentioned me being a wilderness guide, and there was he didn't trust the survey and that sort of thing. I just wanted the listeners to know that I did run a successful firearms business, and before this all started on Friday, I called the Chief Firearms Officer of Alberta, and I had my business license canceled, so that there was no way, in any way, shape, or form, from any angle, that I could in any way get credit or profit from doing this.
Okay, now the quote that I read from Chief Blair was, quite frankly, I don't believe the results of that survey. We have already seen that the gun lobby organizes itself very well to promote false information about how this information is in fact used by the police community. That's what Chief Blair said.
Exactly, and it has nothing to do with the gun lobby. This is me surveying police officers, period. Me being a police officer, I simply asked the question because none of the chiefs ever bothered to ask any of us what we thought of it. They took a stance, And I think that with 2,631 policemen that actually were aware of my survey, first of all, because there was no cost to it, there was no fancy advertising, it was simply, please contact me and give me your opinion. And that's how many results I managed to get.
You know, for as unscientific as it is, and it has been pointed out that it's unscientific, I'm never quite sure what scientific polling means, other than there's a lot of extrapolation of information, and there, I guess,
right,
graphs are followed, and there's a methodology that I don't quite understand. But as unscientific as it is not to be ignored that many police officers across this country responded in the manner that they did to your survey question. John Martin, you're the criminologist. Most people would say, well, I would expect a university professor and a criminologist to support the long gun registry. You don't. You haven't since day one. Where does it fail most in your view, John?
I think that we need to look at where it actually came from, and so many people are so quick to assume it came out of the Montreal massacre, and this had been in the works for a while. If you go back, the Reform and the Alliance Party, the only two places they outpolled the Liberals was taxes and crime. So the Liberals had their mini budget, they cut taxes, and so it was up to the crime issue. Well, this was a way to really throw the Alliance Reform people off balance. If they're so tough on crime, then surely you're into gun control. And it was very difficult for them to articulate a defense to that. And in the meantime, it turned urban against rural, it turned east against west. It was very much one of the beginnings of that culture war of being very divisive and demonizing part of the country, and it worked like a charm for the Liberals. You know, they came out looking very slick out of it, and their opponents looked very disorganized. So I see the whole thing as just a ruse. It had nothing to do with public safety. It had nothing to do with crime prevention or officer safety. I see it simply as nothing more than a political ploy to demonize rural constituents, particularly in Western Canada.
Well, I remember well Alan Rock coming on my talk radio show in Hamilton, Ontario, and I could never really, with the exception of maybe one or two cabinet ministers in the Chrétien government, I couldn't get any Liberal cabinet ministers on my show, certainly not the Prime Minister, because we challenged them on a regular basis. But Mr. Rock was very eager to come on the air and explain to me how this gun registry was going to cost only $2 million, and how it was going to do all sorts of marvelous things, none of which it's accomplished, and we already know it's been, the cost overrun has been more than $1 billion, folks. That's $1,000 million for this gun registry. And at the same time, and I'll put this to you, Constable Kuntz, if I wanted to get a firearm in order to commit a crime, because this is where the focus should be, I could probably go to any number of locations. And I'm in the city of Montreal, but we could choose any city in the city, in this country. I could go to any number of locations, and you tell me if I'm correct or not, Randy. I could get myself a firearm and the ammunition to commit any number of crimes, probably in less than an hour at a reasonable price.
It's exactly how it works. You hit the nail right on the head.
So what does the long gun registry serve? John, has it served any logistical purpose? Has there been anything of any value at all that you can identify with this registry? Because again, the chiefs of police of Canada speak so highly about it.
Absolutely nothing, Roy. If you look at the 6 years since its implementation, death by firearms actually increased in the country, and they've started to trickle back down again. It's had zero impact on any issue related to crime, to violent crime, to homicide. It's completely irrelevant. It's 100% politics.